Hi everyone, my name is Jeff Gratis. I run the sales and service office for Tantec in Chicago. Today's webinar will be based on plasma and corona surface treatment in the foam and board and sheet industries. Foam, boards, corrugated plastics, glass, sheets of material typically all have low surface energies which require some sort of enhancement via corona or plasma surface treatment to allow you to add value to the product, be it printing on glass, laminating, printing on corrugated sheets. All of those types of processes require the improvement of the surface energy of some of these lower surface energy products like polyethylene, polystyrene, polypropylene. Those are the products you typically see adhesion problems with either your glue or your ink that you're putting on the surface. Tantec has over 40 years of experience working in this industry, and we've developed some nice new technologies that allow us to do some things in the industry that others aren't capable of when it comes to thicker materials. So why do we surface treat and how do we solve these adhesion problems? One of the reasons we surface treat obviously is to improve or enhance the value of your product by allowing you to print on it, allowing you to coat a piece of glass, allowing you to laminate a piece of foam between two very, very high-end materials and putting that foam in the middle so you're not having to have additional costs by putting a filler in there that might be too expensive. One of the specialties that Tantec has developed over the years is the ability to treat thicker materials. A lot of materials that are 1 inch thick are seen as materials that can't be corona treated. With Tantec's technology, which I'll touch on a little bit later, we have the ability to treat thick materials up to 1 to 1.5 inches in thickness, as well as treat edge to edge on those thicker materials. One of the difficulties that you run into with thicker materials is the edge treatment becomes a problem. With Tantec's technology, we're now able to treat all the way to the edge, so you don't have to trim the edges off, keeping the cost down and not creating as much scrap. The Tantec system is capable of treating both sides of the material in the same machine. So you don't have to have a secondary process or come back through and flip the material over again to treat the other side. It's a very economical system in terms of cost. You're only using electricity, so you're talking about dollars per day as opposed to a higher end cost of putting a primer down or an AdPro adhesive promoter onto the surface in order to get that adhesion you're looking for. We get a lot of questions about the effects of corona on the product itself. Will I notice it there? Will it do anything to the look of my part? Does it change the dimensional properties of my part, the structural integrity? Corona treatment is typically focused on the top molecule of the product itself. So we don't penetrate deep into the part, changing the structural integrity, the look, feel, or overall quality of the product itself. So from the naked eye, you can't physically see that anything has been done to the surface. It's when you do your adhesion test or you put your coating or your glue on there that you see the benefit of a corona treatment process. So your product will only be enhanced by this. There are no detrimental effects from the corona process. Tantec systems are always easy to use. Very, very simple. Product comes in, we sense the product being there. Once it enters the treating chamber, the treatment is all automated inside there, comes out the other end for you to use at that point. It's very intuitive. We'll give you feedback, provide you information on the treatment process, and let you know if anything needs to be stopped and investigated at that point. The term that's typically used in this industry is it's etching, and that's essentially what we're doing here. The difference is this is more of a chemical etch. Chemical etching is considered better than a mechanical etch. So think of it as etching without actually changing the look or feel of the part. That's going to enhance the quality of your product at that point. So a lot of the products that we work with in this industry, one of the big ones is corrugated boards. This is used for posters, box making, and those types of things. The concern with corrugated boards obviously is their thickness, but from the Tantec side point of view, it's an area where we can use our technology that we've developed over the 40 years to go ahead and treat edge to edge, as well as the corrugated channels. There's always that concern that ozone will develop in that air gap. With our technology, that is eliminated from this process, so you're not carrying ozone throughout your plant. So you get a nice uniform treatment edge to edge without the concerns of any type of ozone being trapped in there. We also do rigid foam boards as well as rigid sheets. So we can do thin materials, we can do thick materials. sheets that you might be printing a logo on or using to go ahead and laminate to another surface. Those sheets can then be passed through our system and treated on both sides, thicker or thinner. The same type of machine can be used for both. We've also done a lot, as you might imagine, the composite decking industry and composite siding, composite trim, anything that's used of maybe of a PVC or a polypropylene or some sort of composite makeup of material has kind of become more popular in the industry and moving away from wood for durability and longevity. Tantec has had a lot of great experience in treating those materials as they pass through. And as you might imagine, those are thicker materials, and that's where Tantec's technology to be able to treat edge to edge comes into play here. We do large display boards. So the boards you might see at a grocery store or at a retailer or even at a sporting event where a logo is exposed to extremes, be it weather, lighting, temperature, high touch surfaces. Those are things that you definitely want to enhance the adhesion of the ink that maybe you're printing on that surface, or you don't want your logo to peel off of the surface you're putting it on. So you might be putting it on a polypropylene board and you want to put your logo on there. We want to make sure that lasts for the life of the part at that point. Other areas we do a little bit in the glass industry as well. A lot of that is doing a surface cleaning and also treating any coating that might be on the glass so that you can now print on that. So you can print a black ink or a white ink or anything that you might put on, let's say, a touch display or something along those lines. Glass is definitely an area where we can provide a great deal of value. Solar panels as well, using a unique electrode setup to make sure that we can use it on a conductive surface, as well as ITO coated glass is also an area that's becoming more and more popular where the glass is conductive to allow for things that you see on airplanes where you touch the glass and the darkness changes. So those are all things that Tantec has a capability of adjusting our systems to fit what you're looking for. So here's just a quick image kind of showing the overall effect of what we expect to see from a surface treated foam board in this case. So on the left hand side you see a foam board. This is probably an HDPE or an LDPE material that we're going ahead and put a piece of tape on there to go ahead and attach something to the surface. So you see before treatment, when you go to pull that tape off, none of the foam board is ripping or coming with that. So that would be what we would consider a tape failure. It's just pulling right off. The material is not receptive to the adhesive on the tape itself. So then after the board is pushed through and treated, we then put the exact same tape down, press it against the surface, and then when we go to peel back, we actually pull the foam up with the tape. That would tell us the adhesive is no longer the weak point and that we're actually pulling the foam off, which would be what our customers are looking for. They're looking for the material to be the part that peels back as opposed to the adhesive. So that would have a customer feeling better that if they used a double-sided tape like this and placed a laminated logo onto that surface, it's just not going to fall off. It's going to require a great deal of force and would actually have to break the board behind it in order to remove that sheet of material or that laminated piece that they're putting on there. So some of the technologies and systems we have that we typically work with, you're going to hear a lot of terms or see a lot of terms on our website. One is our sheet tech. This is typically for rigid, thinner materials that are in sheet format that are passing through. The system can have both inlet and outlet conveyors. It can be mounted onto an existing line that's already present. We're going to use a variety of different electrodes here. We can use metal electrodes for non-conductive surfaces, and then we can go to a ceramic electrode for, let's say, a conductively coated glass or a solar panel that has conductive properties on there. So we can always modify these pieces of equipment to match what you're looking for and give you the optimal enhancement into your surface. And Sheet Tech is always a nice system to allow you to go ahead and pass these sheets through. We'll start the system automatically, turn the system off automatically. You'll have the ability to raise and lower the height of the system. And then we go over to the Foam Tech system. This is the one where I touched earlier on the technology we've developed over the last 40 years to be able to treat thick materials edge to edge. Part of that has to do with The rollers that we use, we put an additional layer of thickness on the rollers so that when a thick material comes through, the electrode sees that material and the roller as all the same piece. So what you would typically see on a corona system on a thick material is you see a lot of arcing at the sides, meaning the energy is wanting to go away from the main board itself. With the Tantec system, you see a nice controlled arc all the way to the edge, meaning you're getting a good quality, uniform, evenly dispersed corona discharge across the entire surface. So you don't have to worry about the middle not being treated as well as the edge. And as I touched on earlier, that edge-to-edge capability is really important to make sure that you're not having to cut the edges off and create a lot of scrap and additional cost. The FoamTec system is going to work very much like the SheetTec. Typically, these aren't installed with conveyors. They're pushed through on extrusion lines. We've had other customers that will bring their own roller conveyors and push the equipment through, push their product through our equipment as well. Turns on and off automatically. The rollers rotate, which then creates the treatment process. The electrodes are in place. Typically, this is done with metal wire electrodes, more for non-conductive materials. So we got a couple of cases here. After the webinar is over, you will receive a copy of the presentation. There'll be a link in here to go ahead and go to these cases and read a little bit more about them. This particular one talks about the SheetTec system that's used on a HMI or a touchscreen control piece of glass where they're printing information on there that is then installed later. Obviously, being a touch screen, we want to make sure that that ink doesn't come off easily from the oils and things that build up on our fingers. So putting this SheetTec in place, prep that glass surface so when the ink is laid down there, this HMI screen covering has the ability to last the life of the part, create great good durability on the surface, so these high touch areas don't break down and start flaking off over time and not being able to see where the button or the touch screen needs to be pressed at that point. Another case study that we have here is for a company that makes, I guess you call them rebounding boards, or boards that are used in soccer or football, where they're practicing and kicking the ball so they get the rebound back and they can continue doing their drills. You know, before surface treatment, these logos were just completely wearing off just from the high touch and the aggressive bouncing of the ball against the surface. After treatment, the durability of this ink is so much better in terms of its longevity and its ability to last with these continual bombardments of the ball against the surface. So what's great about this is they can put their logo on there, people will know who they are. Teams can likely go ahead and put their own logos on stuff like this and customize it. You can imagine professional sports teams and things like that want to have these set around the field. They can sell advertising on there and feel good about that it's going to look good and last, so that they're able to get maximum value out of that particular product. Again, all of these cases will be available after the presentation when it's mailed out to you, as well as on our website. You can see these cases as well. So we're going to do a quick video on the animation of our foam and board so you can kind of see the technology in play, the areas of treatment, the focus on the edge to edge, the ease of use, the operation, and the overall effect we're looking for. And then after that's over, we'll turn it over to the Q&A section.